When people remember Madison Scott, they talk about her smile. Wide, genuine, and impossible to ignore, it lit up any room she walked into. In her small hometown of Vanderhoof, British Columbia, Madison was known not just for that infectious energy, but for her warmth, creativity, and fierce loyalty to the people she loved. She wasn't just another teenager in a remote Canadian town. She was someone who brought color to the everyday, someone whose absence would later haunt an entire country. Born on April 29, 1991, Madison Geraldine Scott, known as Maddie, grew up in a tight-knit family. Her parents, Eldon and Dawn Scott, raised her and her siblings in a home filled with love and support. She was a middle child, sandwiched between an older brother, Ben, and a younger sister, Georgia. It was a household built on trust, honesty, and openness. Madison was the kind of daughter who would hug you for no reason and laugh at your worst jokes just to make you feel better. In school, she wasn't just popular. She was respected. Friends describe her as someone who stood up for others and never shied away from being herself. She had a magnetic energy. She was an athlete, an artist, and a dreamer. Madison played hockey and loved photography. She was also curious about the world and was planning to attend college to pursue her creative passions. But like many young women growing up in rural towns, Madison yearned for more than just routine. She wanted adventure. She wasn't reckless, just hungry for life. That hunger made her relatable, human. It made what happened to her all the more chilling. As she approached her 20th birthday in 2011, life seemed full of promise. Her circle of friends was strong, her family close, and she had begun documenting her life through photos, always eager to capture memories. Those memories, frozen in pictures, would soon become all that was left of her. In May 2011, Madison had plans like any other 20-year-old. It was springtime in northern British Columbia, and she was ready to let loose. A birthday party was planned at Hogsback Lake, a familiar recreational area just 25 kilometers from her home. It wasn't a remote wilderness. People camped there, swam there, partied there. It was considered safe, especially to someone like Madison, who had grown up with a sense of security rooted in her surroundings. Madison and her friend Jordan planned to attend a birthday gathering at the lake on the night of May 27th. They'd pitch a tent, stay the night, and head home the next morning. Nothing out of the ordinary, just two friends celebrating in the woods with other young people from Vanderhoof. Jordan would leave early, feeling unwell. Madison, however, stayed behind. It was the last known decision she would make freely. What makes Madison Scott's disappearance so terrifying is not just that it happened, but how it happened. She vanished in a place she knew, surrounded by people she trusted, in a town where everyone knows everyone. No screams, no signs of struggle, no definitive witnesses. It was as if she had been erased. Before that night, Madison was making summer plans. She had just bought a new camera. She wanted to take a photography road trip. She was saving up. She had dreams. There were no signs of anxiety, no suspicions about people in her life. She wasn't someone you'd think was running away. And yet, on the morning of May 28th, 2011, the world woke up and Madison Scott was gone. Her tent and truck were found exactly where she'd left them. Her purse, her keys, even her beloved camera were still at the site. But Madison, she was gone without a trace. No blood, no struggle, just absence. And for the Scott family, life would never be the same again. The town of Vanderhoof would soon be thrust into a state of shared anxiety and suspicion. What started as a search for a missing girl would evolve into one of Canada's most baffling and tragic mysteries. A case that would remain unsolved for over a decade. In the days, weeks, and years that followed, theories would multiply. Was it someone from the party? A stranger passing through? A predator hiding in plain sight? Or had something gone wrong that night, covered up in silence and fear? In many ways, Madison Scott became more than a missing person. She became a symbol, a reminder of how quickly safety can turn into sorrow, of how a single night can shatter countless lives. But before we dive into the night she vanished and the tangled investigation that followed, it's important to remember the human at the heart of this story. Madison was not a headline. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend. She was someone who loved deeply, laughed loudly, and lived fully, right up until the moment she disappeared. And now, over a decade later, we ask the same question that has haunted her family since that morning in May. What happened to Madison Scott? Friday, May 27th, 2011, began like any other spring day in Vanderhoof. The air was warming, the school year winding down, and a party buzz was in the air. That night, local teens and 20-somethings were heading out to Hogsback Lake to celebrate a friend's birthday, a low-key get-together with beer, music, and the comfort of familiar faces under the stars. Madison Scott was excited. She wasn't the kind of person to miss a chance to celebrate with her friends. That afternoon, she packed her 1994 F-150 and headed to the lake with Jordan, a close friend and fellow hockey player. Madison brought along a tent, sleeping bags, her wallet, keys, a camera. She planned to camp out overnight. It wasn't unusual. People often camped at Hogsback Lake after parties. It was a sort of rite of passage for young people in the area. The lake itself was surrounded by forest, and the site featured a gravel road, an outhouse, a fire pit, and just enough isolation to feel like freedom, but not so isolated that it felt dangerous. To Madison and her friends, it was simply home turf. As they arrived, the scene was familiar and unassuming. Around 50 young people gathered throughout the night, a typical rural gathering. There were no security cameras, no official guest lists, just kids and young adults laughing, sharing drinks, and telling stories around the fire. Photos taken that night, some still circulating online, show Madison smiling, carefree, alive. She was wearing a black t-shirt and hoodie, her long auburn hair falling over her shoulders. She looked like any young woman enjoying a Friday night with people she knew. But something would happen that night, something no one could or would fully explain. Jordan, Madison's friend, wasn't feeling well. According to reports, she decided to leave the party around midnight. Madison chose to stay. She had her own tent and was planning to sleep there. It was a quiet decision at the time, the kind you make when you're comfortable and trusting. Madison said she'd be fine, and that was the last time her friend saw her. In the early morning hours of Saturday, May 28th, the campfire crowd thinned. People left in waves, driving off into the fading night. When the sun rose over Hogsback Lake, there was no sign of chaos, no overturned coolers or shattered bottles. It was as if the party had simply drifted away with the darkness. But Madison Scott was gone. Later that day, when she didn't return home, her family grew worried. It wasn't like her to disappear without a word. She was independent, yes, but she was also incredibly close to her parents. She texted often. She checked in. So when hours passed with no contact, red flags shot up. By Saturday evening, her father, Eldon, drove out to Hogsback Lake to check on her. What he found was eerie and unnerving. Madison's green truck was still there. Her two-person tent was set up nearby, but it looked disturbed. Partially collapsed, some items inside, others outside. Her wallet and keys were inside the vehicle. Her sleeping bag and pillow were in the tent. Even her beloved digital camera, something she rarely parted with, was found at the scene, but there was no sign of Madison. Not a single track, scream, or clue. No phone, no body, just absence. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, were contacted, and soon the area was flooded with search teams, volunteers, dogs, ATVs, helicopters, and boats. Hogsback Lake and its surrounding terrain were combed for days. Every trail, bush, and shoreline was explored. Divers plunged into the lake's cold waters. The search was massive, well-coordinated, and emotionally charged. And yet, Madison had vanished. Completely. In the immediate days that followed, the RCMP conducted interviews with those who had attended the party. Some gave detailed accounts. Others were vague. Rumors began to swirl. Had there been a fight? A stranger at the party? An accident covered up in panic? What puzzled investigators, and the Scott family most, was a complete lack of evidence. No blood, no torn clothing, no drag marks, no tire tracks suggesting a struggle. Just Madison's belongings undisturbed. It was as if she had simply walked away from her life, or been plucked from it by invisible hands. The timeline was foggy. While Jordan left around midnight, and others trickled out between then and 4 a.m., no one recalled seeing Madison after approximately 2:45 a.m. It was a critical gap, one that could mean everything. Someone had to know something. And yet, silence. By the following week, her face was everywhere. In newspapers, on telephone poles, in storefronts across northern British Columbia. Have you seen Maddie? Posters showed her smiling in a graduation photo. The reward for information grew, but tips remained inconsistent or unhelpful. The RCMP assured the public they were pursuing leads, but with no forensic evidence, no confirmed sightings, and a community reluctant to speculate, they were trapped in a fog of uncertainty. What happened that night at Hogsback Lake? Did Madison leave with someone willingly? Was she lured away? Did something terrible happen during those crucial early morning hours while everyone else slept or drifted home? These were the questions that plagued Vanderhoof. The same questions that made parents hold their children closer and made friends of Madison wonder if they had missed a sign, a signal, a warning. As the initial shock faded, the Scott family resolved to do what they could to keep Madison's story alive. They would not let her become a statistic. They would not allow her memory to fade into the silence she had left behind. And so, the search continued, not just in the woods, but in the hearts of everyone who knew her. Madison wasn't just missing. She was gone in the most haunting, inexplicable way. Next, we explore the full scope of that mysterious night in segment 3. The birthday party at Hogsback Lake, a gathering meant for celebration that turned into a permanent scar on a peaceful town. The night of May 27th, 2011, was never meant to be anything more than a casual celebration. For the teens and young adults in Vanderhoof, British Columbia, heading out to Hogsback Lake for a birthday party was a familiar tradition, a night of music, drinks, laughter, and maybe some drama, but nothing outside the bounds of typical teenage freedom. Hogsback Lake, a short drive south of town, was a popular local hangout, nestled in the woods. It provided an ideal escape. The area had no surveillance cameras, no streetlights, and no regular patrols. It was both a draw and a risk. For those familiar with its twists and turns, it was a safe spot to let loose. But it was also a place where anything could happen and no one would know. That Friday, a girl named Natasha was celebrating her birthday at the site. Invitations had spread through word of mouth and social media, and as the evening wore on, the crowd grew. Roughly 50 people arrived throughout the night. Some came in groups, some alone. Some were from Vanderhoof, others from nearby communities. It wasn't a private party, exactly, but it wasn't open to just anyone either. Most people there knew each other, at least vaguely. Madison Scott arrived early with her friend Jordan. She had brought her green Ford F-150 pickup, camping gear, and everything she needed to stay the night. Her decision to camp at the lake was in line with her usual independence. She had done it before, and she wasn't alone. Other people had brought tents, too. Photos from that night show a relaxed atmosphere. People sitting around a campfire, drinks in hand, music playing from truck radios, the sound of water lapping nearby. It was the start of summer, the threshold between routine and freedom for many high school seniors. But underneath the surface, small shifts in energy began to unfold. At some point during the evening, there was alcohol and likely drugs. That wasn't uncommon. Reports later suggested that while most of the party remained mellow, there were arguments, petty drama, and at least one brief altercation between other attendees. Nothing overtly violent, but enough to leave certain people uncomfortable. Madison, however, wasn't known to be involved in any of the friction. Sometime before midnight, Jordan began to feel unwell. Some reports suggest she had too much to drink. Others hint at something more ambiguous. Either way, Jordan chose to leave the party early. Madison offered to stay behind. She had her own setup and had planned on camping. It wasn't a big deal. They said goodbye. Jordan left, believing her friend would be safe. It was the last time she or anyone would ever see her again. The timeline between midnight and sunrise on May 28th remains murky. People came and went. Some stayed in tents. Others drove home. Witness accounts vary in their recollection. Some claimed to have seen Madison sitting near the fire around 1:30 a.m. Others mentioned her heading toward her tent closer to 2:45 a.m. After that, nothing. It wasn't until later that day, when Madison's parents realized she hadn't returned home or made contact, that concern turned to alarm. Her father, Eldon Scott, drove out to Hogsback Lake to check on her. What he found was chilling. Madison's truck was still there. Her tent, pitched near the water, looked disturbed, partially collapsed, like it had been hastily entered or exited. Inside, her belongings remained: sleeping bag, pillow, toiletries. Her keys and wallet were in her truck. Her camera was found, too, but Madison was gone. No one remembered seeing her leave. No one reported any screaming, fighting, or calls for help. The RCMP were called immediately, and soon a full-scale search began. The lake and surrounding area were swept with helicopters, ATVs, search dogs, divers. Volunteers combed the woods. But there was nothing. No signs of a struggle, no tracks, no clothing, no body. It was as though she had evaporated. What made things more unsettling was the silence from attendees. Many were teenagers, scared and unsure what to say. Some were underage and worried about admitting they'd been drinking. Others were older but cautious, afraid of getting pulled into a police investigation. There were whispers, of course, that Madison had left with someone, that something happened and was being covered up, that someone saw something but was too afraid to speak. Some people even speculated that someone outside the group, an unknown predator, had stumbled upon the party and seen an opportunity. The RCMP conducted dozens of interviews. They pressed for details, for inconsistencies in stories. But without physical evidence or a clear timeline, the investigation stalled. Still, one fact stood out. Between 2:45 a.m. and the time the sun rose, Madison Scott vanished from a party of 50 people, and no one could explain how. Her parents were devastated, her friends shaken. The small town of Vanderhoof, once known for its scenic lakes and tight-knit community, became a place of fear and suspicion. How could someone disappear with so many people around? How could no one know? The birthday party that was supposed to be a night of joy had turned into a haunting mystery. And from that moment on, every attendee was part of an unspoken pact. Some silent from fear, others from guilt, and still others from genuine confusion. Who was the last person to see Madison Scott? What really happened in those hours between the party winding down and the discovery of her abandoned camp? As the investigation ramped up, the RCMP would turn their attention to the people who were there that night. Coming up in segment 4, The Suspects and Silent Witnesses, we dive into the tangled web of interviews, rumors, and theories that followed, and the chilling idea that someone among the partygoers might know more than they ever let on. When a young woman disappears without a trace, suspicion naturally falls on those who were last seen with her. In Madison Scott's case, that group wasn't small. It included dozens of individuals who attended the birthday party at Hogsback Lake. But what should have been a pool of helpful witnesses quickly became a murky web of silence, half-truths, and inconsistencies. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, launched a full-scale investigation immediately after Madison was reported missing. Detectives canvassed the area, conducted aerial and ground searches, and most critically, began interviewing the attendees of the party. The urgency was clear. In missing person cases, especially involving young women, the first 48 hours are vital. One of the first people to be questioned was Jordan, Madison's close friend who had left the party early. Jordan's account was consistent. She had been unwell, decided to leave around midnight, and Madison had insisted on staying, wanting to enjoy the night and sleep in her tent. There was no argument, no tension, just a casual parting of ways. But Jordan couldn't provide any information about what happened after she left. For all intents and purposes, she was no longer part of the timeline after midnight. The RCMP then turned to other partygoers. Some claimed to have seen Madison sitting near the campfire well past midnight. Others said she was still up and moving around the campsite around 2:30 a.m. A few insisted she had gone to her tent to sleep. But the problem wasn't just vague timelines. It was a noticeable reluctance of attendees to talk openly. Many were teenagers or young adults who had been drinking. Some feared legal repercussions. Others were likely protecting friends, unsure of how to navigate police questioning. And in a small town like Vanderhoof, speaking out, especially if it involved someone local, meant risking social fallout. That fear bred silence. There were rumors, of course. Always are. One rumor claimed Madison had gotten into an argument with a male partygoer, though no one ever confirmed this. Another alleged she may have gone for a walk around the lake and encountered someone, either from the party or an outsider. There were even whispers that someone had left in the early morning hours in a panic, but no evidence supported it. Still, the RCMP couldn't ignore anything. Every lead, no matter how strange, had to be followed. The possibility that Madison had left willingly with someone was also considered. But if she had, why had she left her keys, wallet, and belongings behind? Why would she have gone off into the woods in the dead of night, alone or with another? There was no sign of her using her phone, and no records of her traveling. It didn't add up. Then came the harder theories, the ones that suggested Madison hadn't left of her own free will. Had someone at the party done something to her? Was there an accident that had been covered up in fear? Or worse, had someone lured her away under false pretenses, only to do harm? The idea of a cover-up began to fester in the community. If Madison had been harmed and her body hidden, it would explain the lack of evidence. The dense woods and numerous backroads around Hogsback Lake could conceal almost anything, but to orchestrate something like that would require planning or complicity, and that would mean someone or several people were lying. As investigators pressed deeper, some partygoers stopped cooperating. Others moved away. The RCMP released statements urging people to come forward, even anonymously. Madison's parents made public pleas. They didn't want justice, they said. They just wanted their daughter back. One by one, every person known to be at the party was asked to provide statements. Some were polygraphed. Others were cleared. Still, there were no arrests, no charges, and no breakthroughs. One man became the focus of whispers, a guest known to have a temper and who had left abruptly after the party. But no concrete evidence linked him to Madison's disappearance. He was interviewed and eventually cleared. Another attendee reportedly had a criminal record, but again, nothing tied him to the scene. The lack of physical evidence meant that the case relied heavily on interviews, statements, and behavioral patterns. And without a body, without witnesses willing to talk openly, the case stalled. Then there was the possibility of an outsider. Some speculated that someone not connected to the party may have stumbled upon the gathering, lurking in the woods, watching from a distance. Hogsback Lake was remote, yes, but not impossible to find. Could a predator have seen the party as an opportunity? Could Madison have wandered off and encountered the wrong person at the wrong moment? Theories like these haunted the investigators. But with no sign of struggle, no physical evidence left behind, no torn clothing, no blood, no dropped belongings, the truth remained hidden. One thing was clear to police. Someone, somewhere, knew more than they were saying. Whether out of fear, guilt, or something darker, there was a silence that refused to break. Madison Scott's disappearance was no longer just a missing person case. It had become a small-town mystery filled with potential suspects, silent witnesses, and a growing sense of dread. If someone had harmed her, they were still walking free. If she had left on her own, the trail had gone cold. And if there had been an accident, it had been very carefully and cruelly covered up. In the next segment, we'll explore how the Scott family and the community responded to this growing mystery, and how their relentless search brought national attention to the case. Coming up in segment 5, A Town Haunted, the family's plea and the community's search. In the quiet aftermath of Madison Scott's disappearance, a somber cloud descended over Vanderhoof. This wasn't just another case to the townspeople. This was personal. Madison wasn't some distant name on the news. She was their neighbor, their classmate, their friend. And the longer she remained missing, the more the entire community felt the weight of her absence. For the Scott family, life changed in an instant. Dawn and Eldon Scott, Madison's parents, were thrust into the agonizing role no parent ever wants, leading a search of their missing daughter while keeping hope alive in the face of unimaginable uncertainty. Their home became the headquarters of tireless efforts, a place of phone calls, maps, timelines, and sleepless nights. Yet, Through their grief and fear, they chose action over despair. The very next day after Madison was reported missing, they rallied volunteers. Flyers bearing her photo and physical description were printed and posted across Vanderhoof and beyond. Grocery stores, gas stations, community centers. Anywhere that could draw a pair of eyes became a beacon of hope. They hoped that maybe, just maybe, someone had seen something. Anything. The town responded. Volunteers arrived in droves. Teenagers, adults, even the elderly. Some knew Madison personally. Others didn't. But they came with boots on and hearts full of purpose. Search parties combed through forests, marshlands, and trails near Hogsback Lake. Boats were deployed in the water. Helicopters scanned from above. People on ATVs, horseback, and on foot searched mile after mile. The RCMP worked alongside them, using search dogs, drones, and forensic teams. But as the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, nothing emerged. No clothing, no footprints, no signs of struggle. Madison had vanished. It seemed as if the earth itself had swallowed her whole. Still, the Scotts pressed on. They launched a website, Madison Scott, dedicated to spreading awareness about Madison's disappearance. It included photos, timelines, and tips for the public. Donations poured in to support the search, and billboards featuring Madison's face appeared on highways across British Columbia. Dawn Scott began speaking at public events. She shared memories of Madison's laughter, her wild curls, her adventurous spirit. Her voice cracked but never faltered. Her message was always clear. We are not giving up. Local businesses donated supplies, flashlights, food for search parties, gas money for travel. Strangers offered their cabins as search bases. Community members began organizing vigils and walks in Madison's name. Each event drew hundreds. They lit candles, sang songs, and stood in silence, unified by loss and a lingering question. Where is Maddie? But there was also fear. Parents watched their children more closely. Young women no longer felt safe alone at night. The trust and tranquility of the town had been broken, replaced by unease and suspicion. If Madison could disappear without a trace, so could anyone. Despite this, hope never truly faded. Every year on the anniversary of Madison's disappearance, the Scott family led a bike rally called Ride for Maddie. Riders of all ages participated, cycling from Vanderhoof to Hogsback Lake, retracing the final journey Madison made that night. The ride became a symbol, not only of remembrance, but of unity. Even a decade after her disappearance, the community continued to ride, continued to remember. The media played its part. News outlets across Canada picked up the story, keeping Madison's name in headlines. National TV interviews, crime shows, and missing person specials helped amplify the search. The Scotts even worked with podcast creators and documentarians, knowing that every retelling might reach someone who knew something. Tips occasionally surfaced, unverified sightings, overheard conversations, even alleged confessions. Each one was investigated. Some turned out to be misunderstandings. Others were deliberate hoaxes. Yet the Scotts held on, knowing that the right tip, the right voice might still come. Perhaps one of the most powerful signs of the family's resolve was the way they channeled their pain into action for others. The Scotts began connecting with other families of missing persons, offering support and solidarity. They understood the loneliness, the waiting, the sleepless nights, and they knew that the only thing worse than losing someone was the world forgetting they were lost. As months turned to years, many in the community wondered how the family managed to go on. The answer was always the same: love. Madison's presence was too strong to let go. Her laughter still echoed in their memories. Her dreams still lived in their hearts. Until there was a body, until there was proof, she was not gone. She was missing. And missing meant hope. By 2020, a decade had passed. The search had become quieter, but it had never stopped. Investigators still followed leads. The website still accepted tips. And the bike rally still drew crowds. The community still asked questions. The Scotts still waited. What kept them going? It wasn't just faith in the police. It wasn't just the support from strangers. It was something deeper. A refusal to let Madison's story end without an answer. In the next segment, We will explore the role of social media, armchair detectives, and the rise of online sleuthing in Madison Scott's case, how the internet became both a source of help and a breeding ground for dark speculation. Coming up in Segment 6, Digital Detectives, the online world's role in the search for Madison. In the digital age, mysteries don't remain confined to the towns they originate in. They ripple outward, capturing the attention of people far and wide, creating webs of speculation, investigation, and hope. Madison Scott's disappearance was no different. As word of her vanishing spread across traditional media, the online world took notice and began to act. From Facebook groups to Reddit forums, amateur sleuths, also known as web sleuths, began poring over every known detail of the case. They examined timelines, maps, interviews, satellite images, and even the tiniest clues, anything that could point to what happened to Madison in the early morning hours of May 28, 2011. Initially, Madison's family welcomed the attention. Social media offered a platform to expand the search far beyond the forests of Vanderhoof. Her photo was shared thousands of times. Her story traveled across provinces, then countries. The hashtag Find Madison Scott became a quiet rallying cry for justice. But the online world is a double-edged sword. While many use the internet as a tool for awareness and support, others fueled wild speculation and conspiracy theories. Some questioned the friends Madison was with that night. Others zeroed in on the location, Hogsback Lake, claiming it held dark secrets or connections to other disappearances. Some suggested Madison had left of her own will. A few even accused those close to her of foul play, despite no solid evidence. For the Scott family, this was painful. Every theory, every accusation, no matter how baseless, cut deep. Still, they understood the attention was a sign that people cared, and they held on to the belief that someone, somewhere, might stumble upon a clue overlooked by others. Let's look at how this online effort evolved. 1. Facebook groups and missing person pages. Shortly after Madison disappeared, dedicated Facebook pages emerged to share updates, photos, and requests for information. These pages became digital billboards of hope. Comments flooded in from around the world. Prayers, memories, suggestions. Some offered drone footage from nearby areas. Others suggested dive teams. The collective effort showed the power of social media when used responsibly. 2. Reddit's unrelenting curiosity. Reddit, particularly the r/unresolved mysteries and r/missing person subreddits, became hotbeds of discussion. Users analyzed photos from the campsite. They questioned witness statements, dissected police reports, and even used GPS technology to estimate distances between key locations. The community treated the case like a puzzle. For some, it became a mission. But as helpful as these discussions were, they also gave rise to misinformation, misquotes, incorrect assumptions. At times, they even crossed into territory that law enforcement had asked the public to avoid. Despite good intentions, some digital detectives unknowingly obstructed more than they helped. 3. YouTube and podcasts. Channels like the Crit Stories and true crime podcasters across North America started covering Madison's case. Many brought new eyes to the mystery. They interviewed people close to the story, invited experts to speculate based on evidence, and kept the public emotionally invested. Podcasts like The Vanished, Missing and Murdered, and others dedicated episodes to Madison's disappearance. Their long-form storytelling helped spread awareness to new audiences, especially those outside Canada. The audio format brought Madison's story into people's homes, commutes, and daily routines. Some episodes went viral, leading to fresh tips and renewed interest. 4. Citizen investigators. Some took it a step further. Internet sleuths began visiting Hogsback Lake on their own. They filmed videos, walked through the campsite, and posted detailed reports. They tried to recreate Madison's last known steps, asking, where could she have gone? Who could have taken her? Could she have fallen into the water unnoticed? While these efforts brought attention, they also caused friction with the RCMP. Unauthorized searches and speculation sometimes interfered with ongoing investigations. The family, too, had to issue general reminders to prioritize facts over theories and respect over rumor. Still, the digital presence surrounding Madison's case played an undeniable role. It kept her name in circulation. It ensured she wasn't forgotten. It reminded the world that somewhere a young woman was still missing, and someone knew why. Perhaps the most heartwarming digital initiative came from a campaign called Light the Lake. It encouraged people around the world to light a candle for Madison every May 28th, post a photo online, and use the hashtag #LightTheLake. Photos from Canada, the U.S., Australia, and even parts of Europe began pouring in. It was a reminder that even in a world driven by algorithms and attention spans, real human empathy still existed. And behind the screens and hashtags, Madison's family continued watching, waiting, hoping. In the next segment, we'll dive into the theories that emerged, both credible and controversial, and how they shaped the narrative of Madison's disappearance. Coming up in segment 7, Theories and Suspicions, What Might Have Happened to Madison Scott. With no confirmed sightings, no physical evidence, and no obvious motive, the disappearance of Madison Scott quickly evolved into one of Canada's most perplexing mysteries. And where the facts left silence, theories rushed in to fill the void. Over the years, law enforcement, amateur sleuths, journalists, and armchair detectives have proposed a wide range of possibilities. Some of them are grounded in evidence. Others stem from a natural human impulse to find answers, any answers, when a story refuses to resolve. Let's examine the major theories that have emerged in the years since Madison vanished. 1. Stranger abduction. Perhaps the most prominent and widely accepted theory is that Madison was abducted by a stranger. The area around Hogsback Lake, while not a bustling city center, wasn't completely isolated. It was frequented by campers, off-roaders, and local partiers. Some visitors came and went without anyone knowing their identities. Investigators considered the possibility that someone unconnected to Madison, perhaps someone passing through, came across her alone that night and took advantage of the situation. The circumstances seemed to allow for it. A young woman, sleeping alone in a tent at a remote lake after a party where most guests had already left. The fire had burned low. The sounds of the forest had returned. In that window of time, between when the last friend left and when searchers arrived the next morning, anything could have happened. But if it was a stranger, how did they leave no trace? No drag marks, no blood, no signs of a struggle? And why leave behind her truck and her tent undisturbed? This theory, while plausible, continues to spark more questions than answers. 2. Known acquaintance. Another theory focuses on someone within Madison's social circle. Someone who knew her, possibly attended the party, and stayed behind. Some question the fact that Madison's friend, who had originally planned to camp with her, left unexpectedly. According to reports, the friend injured herself and left with another partygoer, leaving Madison alone. While no direct suspicion fell on this friend, online sleuths speculated. Was this departure pre-planned? Could it have been a setup? Police have publicly stated that all individuals at the party were interviewed and cleared, but the possibility of someone returning to the site after the party, or someone lying about their movements, has never fully been dismissed by the public. In a small town where everyone knows everyone, it's hard to imagine such a betrayal. But sadly, history has shown that many crimes are committed not by strangers, but by people the victim once trusted. 3. Voluntary disappearance. Though hard for many to accept, some theorists explore the idea that Madison may have chosen to disappear, that she walked away from her life that night and never looked back. Supporters of this theory cite the lack of struggle at the scene and the fact that Madison's keys and phone were missing. Could she have had a secret plan? Was she troubled in ways her family didn't know? Her loved ones have repeatedly dismissed this idea. Madison was close to her family. She had no known issues with mental health, and no indications of running away. She had a job, friends, and aspirations. Most importantly, there were no signs she was preparing to vanish. To those who knew her best, this theory feels more like a convenient narrative for the absence of evidence than a true possibility. 4. Foul play and human trafficking. This darker theory suggests that Madison may have been the victim of an organized crime operation, possibly connected to human trafficking. Proponents point to British Columbia's Highway 16, infamously known as the Highway of Tears. Many Indigenous women and girls have gone missing or been murdered along this corridor over the decades. The cases often share similar patterns: remote locations, lack of witnesses, minimal physical evidence. Though Madison was not indigenous, her disappearance along the same stretch of highway has led some to believe there may be a link. Was she abducted and taken elsewhere? Sold into a criminal enterprise? It's a chilling thought, but one that remains plausible in the minds of many. However, law enforcement has never publicly confirmed any evidence supporting this theory in Madison's case. 5. Accidental death and concealment. This theory suggests Madison might have suffered an accidental injury, perhaps a fall or drowning, and someone nearby panicked and covered it up. Imagine this scenario. Madison ventures into the woods after the party. Perhaps she's intoxicated. Maybe she's disoriented. She trips, falls, or hits her head. Someone who is still at the lake finds her. Scared of the consequences, they move her body, hide it, and leave no trace behind. This theory fits with the absence of signs of violence. It also fits the eerie silence of the crime scene. But after years of extensive searching with dogs, drones, sonar, and forensic equipment, nobody was ever found. No personal effects. Nothing. 6. Serial offender. Though rare in Canada, the idea of a serial predator has occasionally been floated. Could Madison have been targeted by someone who had done this before, or would do it again? If so, why have more cases like hers surfaced in the region since? Why hasn't the perpetrator resurfaced? This theory remains speculative but not impossible. Public reaction and police response. For every theory, there has been reaction, often emotional. Madison's family has remained focused on facts and dignity. They've asked the public to avoid sensationalism and speculation, especially when it affects real people. But they've also urged the police to consider every avenue. The RCMP has stated that the case remains open and active. New tips are still evaluated. Advances in forensic technology continue to offer fresh possibilities. They've emphasized that even the smallest piece of information could change everything. In the next segment, we'll take a closer look at the emotional and psychological toll this mystery has taken on the family, on the town, and on everyone touched by Madison's story. Coming up in segment 8, the weight of the unknown, grief, hope, and a town changed forever. Madison Scott's disappearance has taken a profound emotional toll not only on her family, but also on the close-knit community of Vanderhoof. As each year passes without answers, the pain remains, and the hope of finding Madison only becomes more bittersweet. This is a story not just about a missing person, but about the power of grief, the resilience of hope, and the impact of an unsolved mystery on an entire community. 1. The family's endless heartache. For Madison's family, especially her parents, every passing day without closure is a painful reminder that their daughter is still missing. From the moment Madison disappeared, her mother, Debbie, and her father, Rick, have worked tirelessly to keep her story alive. Their relentless pursuit of answers has been fueled by love and the desperate need for peace. They've gone through the agonizing process of holding vigils, appearing in public interviews, and using every platform available to share Madison's face with the world. They've appeared on TV, in local newspapers, and across social media, always searching for someone who might know something. Every new lead, every fresh tip brings hope, but also risk, as most tips lead to dead ends. Rick and Debbie Scott have been clear about their unwavering belief that Madison is still out there, that she is somewhere waiting to be found. But they also acknowledge the crushing weight of the unknown. They have spoken publicly about how each passing year has made it harder to keep hope alive, but they continue to fight for Madison's memory. In their hearts, she is not just a missing person. She is a daughter, a sister, a friend, someone worth finding no matter the cost. The emotional toll on the family is incomprehensible. Living in a perpetual state of not knowing what happened to their loved one, whether she's alive or dead, safe or in danger, has caused waves of despair and anxiety. But through it all, they continue to push forward, bolstered by the memory of a young woman they love. 2. A town changed forever. Vanderhoof, a small town with a population just over 4,000, has also felt the reverberations of Madison's disappearance. Once known for its quiet, rural charm, the town is now forever tied to the mystery that still lingers in the air. The lake that once brought people joy and leisure is now a place of sorrow. The trees that once whispered in the wind now seem to hold secrets. secrets that continue to elude everyone's grasp. For the residents of Vanderhoof, Madison's case has been a constant reminder that safety is not guaranteed, even in the most serene, rural communities. Families here knew that tragedies happen, but this one was different. This was a young woman from their own town, someone's daughter, a person they knew or knew of. The community has come together in different ways, both to show support and to search for Madison. Local organizations, neighbors, and even people from nearby towns have participated in search efforts, often volunteering their time to comb the forest or set up flyers across town. These efforts may not have yielded definitive results, but they have created a sense of solidarity, a shared hope that Madison will one day come home. But there's a darker side to all of this as well. As the years have passed, some people have grown weary of the constant media coverage. They question the public focus on the case, asking why the same attention isn't given to other missing persons. Frustrations have been voiced, but they never overshadow the collective desire for justice and closure. For the community, the question is not just where Madison went, but why something like this could happen in a place like Vanderhoof. For some, it has altered their perception of safety, forever changing how they see their small town. The echoes of her disappearance will likely reverberate through generations. 3. The psychological toll. Beyond the immediate family and community, Madison's disappearance has also cast a shadow over everyone who knew her, and even those who didn't. For many, her case remains a haunting reminder of the vulnerability we all face, no matter where we live. The emotional burden of living with an unsolved case is something that stretches far beyond a direct family circle. For those who knew Madison well, the grief is layered with guilt. Friends who were present at the party the night she vanished wonder if they could have done more. Could they have kept her safe? Could they have stayed longer? Was there something they missed that might have saved her? In the years following her disappearance, some have even described feelings of survivor's guilt. They can't escape the thought that they could have been the ones who went missing instead. Some of these friends have struggled with the trauma, unable to fully move on because the unresolved mystery of Madison's fate constantly looms over them. The police officers and search teams involved have also experienced the weight of this case. Many have publicly stated that the lack of closure affects them personally. The inability to solve such a high-profile case, especially one with so many unanswered questions, weighs heavily on investigators. They have dedicated countless hours to the search, but despite their best efforts, they have yet to uncover the truth. For the general public, especially those who followed Madison's case closely, the psychological impact is also profound. The uncertainty surrounding her disappearance forces us to confront our own vulnerability. If something like this can happen in such a seemingly safe environment, can we ever truly feel secure? It's a feeling that many people carry with them, even years after the case first made headlines. For the power of hope. Despite the toll it's taken on all involved, Madison's story is not just one of grief and despair. It is also a story of hope. Hope that she will one day be found, that the truth will finally come to light, and that her family can find peace. Even as the years pass, the Scott family continues to advocate for Madison. They have not given up on finding her. Each new year brings a renewed sense of purpose. And for the people of Vanderhoof, the fight for answers continues to unite them, driving them to keep Madison's name alive in the hearts and minds of everyone. In the next segment, we'll explore the ongoing efforts to find Madison Scott and the evolving investigation, what new developments have emerged, and how are law enforcement, family, and community members still actively pursuing answers. Coming up in segment 9, the ongoing search, new leads and unanswered questions. As the years pass, the case of Madison Scott remains unsolved. Yet, despite the heartache and frustration, her family, the community, and law enforcement continue to search for answers. With new leads, fresh perspectives, and advances in technology, there is still hope that one day Madison's fate will be uncovered. The search for her is not over. It's a continuing effort, one fueled by the need for closure and justice. 1. The role of technology and new search methods. In the years following Madison's disappearance, new technologies have been employed to aid in the search. As more people have come to understand the power of digital tools, there's been a concerted effort to use these resources in the quest for answers. In addition to the traditional search methods, which included physical searches of the area around Hogsback Lake, Drones, sonar, and ground-penetrating radar have been used to explore areas that were previously inaccessible or overlooked. Drones, with their ability to capture high-resolution images of vast areas, have been instrumental in scanning large sections of forest that may have otherwise remained unseen. Meanwhile, sonar technology has been used to explore the nearby lakes and rivers. These tools have led to new insights, but so far, nothing conclusive has been discovered. Law enforcement also continues to engage with social media and other digital platforms to spread the word about Madison's case. These efforts ensure that new eyes are always on the case, helping to uncover leads that may have been missed previously. Over time, social media has proven to be an incredibly valuable resource in missing persons cases, providing a platform for the public to share information, theories, and ultimately generate fresh tips that could crack open a case that otherwise might have gone cold. 2. New leads and ongoing tips. Though most of the leads in Madison's case have proven to be false or inconclusive, there have been occasional breakthroughs. In particular, tips from the public have continued to pour in over the years, offering new theories, possible sightings, and potential evidence. Law enforcement has made it clear that they follow up on every tip, no matter how small or distant it may seem. One of the more significant moments came a few years ago when a tipster claimed to have seen a vehicle near Hogsback Lake the night Madison disappeared. While the details were vague, this sighting led investigators to search nearby areas in hopes of uncovering more clues. However, despite a renewed search in the area, no evidence linked to Madison's disappearance was found. Still, every new tip is treated seriously, with the hope that one day, a crucial lead will emerge that will lead to the breakthrough the case desperately needs. Some tips have focused on individuals who were known to frequent the area around Hogsback Lake, people who may have been overlooked in the initial investigation. These names were revisited, and investigations into their whereabouts that night were conducted. Yet, no one has ever been definitively tied to Madison's disappearance. Still, the belief remains that someone knows something, and the community continues to share information in the hopes of finally breaking the case wide open. 3. The psychological impact on investigators. For law enforcement officers involved in Madison's case, the emotional and psychological impact is profound. Over the years, several of the officers who worked on her case have spoken publicly about the toll it's taken on them. The inability to bring closure to Madison's family and to the community at large has left many officers feeling frustrated and powerless. Detective Kim O'Neill, one of the lead investigators in the case, has publicly stated that the case remains one of the most difficult he's worked on. The lack of physical evidence, combined with the absence of any solid leads, means that his team must work within the confines of what little they have. It's a challenge that law enforcement officials face in many missing person cases, and it's one that can wear on even the most seasoned professionals. Despite these challenges, the RCMP continues to emphasize their commitment to finding Madison and solving the case. Cold cases like Madison's are never truly closed, and investigators know that new techniques or tips could one day yield the missing piece of the puzzle. Until then, they continue their work, driven by the hope that justice will eventually be served. 4. Public involvement and continued awareness. Another critical aspect of the ongoing search for Madison is the involvement of the public. Her case has gained widespread attention, not only within the community of Vanderhoof, but also across Canada. Through the tireless efforts of Madison's family, the case remains in the public eye, ensuring that new people are always learning about her disappearance. Social media has played a key role in maintaining awareness of Madison's case. Her parents, along with advocacy groups and concerned citizens, regularly update social media platforms with new information, new searches, and new efforts. These updates help keep Madison's case alive in the minds of those who may have seen something or know something, ensuring that no one forgets the young woman who vanished without a trace. The case has also led to stronger support for other families facing similar circumstances. By keeping Madison's story in the spotlight, the community has raised awareness about missing persons and the need for continued action and resources to solve such cases. Madison's disappearance has brought people together in ways that no one could have predicted, and it's a sense of unity and collective effort that continues to drive the search forward. 5. The importance of persistence. Perhaps the most vital aspect of the ongoing search for Madison Scott is the persistence of her family and supporters. No matter how many years pass, the Scott family has never stopped fighting for answers. They continue to advocate for Madison, tirelessly working to keep her story alive, even as time wears on. This persistence is crucial, especially in missing persons cases. The longer a case remains unsolved, the more likely it is that leads will dry up and the evidence will grow cold. But as long as Madison's family continues to search and push for answers, there's hope. New developments can occur at any time. A new witness, a new piece of evidence, or even a breakthrough in forensic science can change everything. While the weight of uncertainty is heavy, it is the unyielding determination of those who refuse to give up on Madison that keeps the search alive. 6. A call for justice. As we approach the final segment of Madison's story, it's important to remember that while the search continues, the ultimate goal is justice. Madison deserves to be found. Her family deserves to know what happened to her. Every new lead, every new search, brings them one step closer to answers. But it's not just about finding Madison. It's about finding the truth, wherever it may lie, and bringing those responsible for her disappearance to justice. In the next segment, we will reflect on the lasting impact of this case and explore the questions that still remain unanswered. Coming up in segment 10, the legacy of Madison Scott, a mystery that haunts us all. Madison Scott's disappearance continues to capture the collective imagination of all those who have followed her case. It is not just a story of one young woman who vanished from a remote area, but a broader reflection of the vulnerability we all face. A haunting mystery that will not fade into the background. Madison's case remains an open wound for her family, the community of Vanderhoof, and the wider public. As the years pass, the questions about what happened to her only grow more pressing. 1. The unanswered questions. After so many years, the questions surrounding Madison Scott's disappearance are as urgent as ever. What happened to Madison the night she vanished? Did she leave on her own accord? Was she taken? And, perhaps most chilling of all, who knew something about her whereabouts, but chose not to speak up? The most perplexing aspect of the case is a complete absence of evidence. In cases like these, the smallest piece of information, whether it's a single clue or a forgotten witness, can make all the difference. But in Madison's case, there's been nothing definitive that points to a clear answer. The trail is cold, but that doesn't mean the story is over. The search for truth is relentless, and no one is ready to give up. It's easy to become disheartened by the lack of concrete evidence, but the truth remains. The case is still open. As long as there is hope that a breakthrough can be made, Madison's story will continue to be told. For her family and the many people who have followed her story, this case is a constant reminder that there is still so much left to uncover. 2. The enduring impact on Madison's family. For Madison's parents, the passage of time hasn't dulled the pain. It has only deepened it. Rick and Debbie Scott, along with Madison's siblings, have been forced to endure a daily battle against grief and uncertainty. As much as they've done to keep Madison's memory alive, they have also struggled with feelings of hopelessness. In interviews and public statements, they've shared their pain, but also their commitment to never giving up on Madison. Their advocacy for their daughter is not only about seeking justice, but about making sure the world knows that Madison Scott is more than just a missing person. She is a beloved daughter, sister, and friend. The absence of closure has made every birthday, holiday, and milestone painful. Yet, they continue to speak out, attend vigils, and push for answers. They are a living testament to the strength of parental love, an unwavering belief that Madison is worth fighting for, no matter the odds. 3. The ongoing search, community support. Vanderhoof, the town where Madison was last seen, continues to be at the heart of this mystery. While it is a small and quiet community, it is not one that will forget the young woman who vanished from its midst. Residents still hold out hope that Madison's story will one day have a resolution, and they work tirelessly to support her family. The town has become a hub for awareness and action. Fundraisers, community events, and awareness campaigns continue to be organized in her name, keeping the issue of her disappearance in the public consciousness. Each year, the anniversary of Madison's disappearance is marked by a memorial event where residents come together to remember her and to renew their commitment to finding her. This support has extended beyond Vanderhoof as well. People from all over Canada and the United States have reached out, offering tips, organizing search parties, or simply spreading Madison's story through social media and other platforms. This wider network of support reminds Madison's family that they are not alone in their fight for answers. 4. The role of media and public awareness. The media has played a pivotal role in keeping Madison's case alive. From the moment she was reported missing, local news outlets began covering her story, and national media outlets picked it up as time went on. These broadcasts have been essential in keeping the case visible, ensuring that Madison's name is remembered. Public interest in missing persons cases has grown, especially with the rise of social media. The ability to instantly share information with a global audience has led to greater awareness and the possibility of new leads. In Madison's case, her story has been shared and reshared countless times on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, reaching people who may have seen something or who may know something crucial. While the media coverage has brought attention to Madison's case, it's also served as a reminder of the emotional toll such coverage can have on her family. There's always a fear that every new update could be another heart-wrenching disappointment. However, Madison's family has continued to advocate for her, finding strength in the knowledge that her story is being heard and that there are still people who care about finding out what happened to her. 5. The call for justice. As time moves on, the need for justice becomes more urgent. Madison's family deserves answers. They deserve to know what happened to their daughter and who is responsible for taking her away. Every tip, every investigation, every piece of evidence uncovered brings them one step closer to finding out the truth. It's clear that Madison's case will continue to haunt the community and her family until justice is served. But until that happens, the quest for answers will not stop. The tireless efforts of Madison's parents, local authorities, and the public are proof that as long as there's breath in search, there's hope that Madison will one day be brought home. 6. The legacy of Madison Scott. Though Madison's disappearance remains unsolved, the legacy of her story is undeniable. It serves as a reminder of the fragility of life and the unpredictable nature of fate. The mystery of Madison Scott has forever changed the lives of those who knew her and the community of Vanderhoof. But it has also united people from across the country, all working together in the hope of solving a case that has captivated so many. The legacy of Madison Scott is one of resilience, love, and a determination to never give up. Her name will continue to echo through the hearts of those who care about justice. The unanswered questions may remain, but the fight for answers and for closure will never end. As we close the final chapter of this series, let us continue to remember Madison, keep her story alive, and never stop hoping for the answers that may one day bring her home. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the mystery of Madison Scott's disappearance. If you have any information, no matter how small, please reach out to your local authorities or contact the RCMP. Every tip counts. If you know something, no matter how small, don't stay silent. Madison's story deserves closure, and her family deserves answers. Share this video, spread awareness, and keep her name alive. Someone, somewhere knows the truth,